A lot of the reading and viewing I've been doing recently, and a lot of the thinking aloud I've been doing, has been around this idea of feeling. So I've been looking at Robert Burton's book about certainty. It's called something like On Being Certain, which he refers to as the feeling of knowing. That when we know something, it isn't just some kind of abstract Mr. Spock kind of inputting of information. It's accompanied by a feeling that we know that, which isn't just we know, we also know that we know, and we might call that certainty, and that's the feeling of knowing. I've also been looking at Eugene Gendlin, which I've mentioned endlessly in these bloody videos, in relation to meaning, that when two symbols are connected, or a symbol and object are connected, we don't just experience that as a kind of uninflected Mr. Spock-like connection, a rational correlation between two events, which you might call causality or you might call representation or whatever. We don't just experience it like that, we also have a feeling of it, and that's part of our understanding of meaning. We feel significance. So that's about a felt relationship to what would otherwise be perhaps a fairly sterile cognitive computational event. And I've also been thinking a little bit about Antonio Damasio. I was looking at one of his videos on 4TV a couple of nights ago. And of course Damasio wrote and talked about the feeling of what happens, as he calls it. The feeling of what happens, which is qualia, otherwise known as qualia. This sense that here I am looking out into this bloody gorgeous field here in Cheshire, with these beautiful track marks where the tractor's gone across it. But again, that's not just data. I'm not just experiencing the green of the grass and the kind of tattooed nature of that tree against the sky. I'm not just experiencing it as data. There is a feeling which accompanies that, the feeling of what happens, which we might call consciousness, and which I think Damasio would call consciousness. And then slightly more speculatively, this stuff I've been talking about in relation to Rodolfo Llinas, who's a brilliant neurologist, neuroscientist. He was talking about free will on a video I saw, and in one of his books, and he talks about this sense that we have of free will is the feeling we get when the brain knows what's going to happen next. So there's a feeling of what happens next, and we call that feeling free will, and maybe inflect it with things like doubt or fear or trepidation or hope, those kind of things. So there's the feeling of knowing, the feeling of meaning, the feeling of what's happening, and the feeling is what happens next. And they're all, they're all felt. They're all felt senses. I don't know where I'm going with that really. Maybe that's just an observation. I suppose where I would want to go with that, I suppose, is thinking about why they're called feelings, why it's called a felt sense. Because you don't really feel them. And feeling is something you do with your hands and your skin. You feel something, or you feel something against you. So why would we use that metaphor? Why in fact do we use feeling metaphors when we're talking about emotional perceptions? I would guess here, again I'm speculating beyond the data, but I would guess here that when we feel something, it has to be up close and personal. In order to put our hands on something or to rest our skin against something, it has to be right up against the body. It has to be pressing against us, or we have to be pressing against it. We have to be kind of moulding ourselves around it in some way, and being completely intimate with it. Which isn't the same if you're just talking about seeing something. Seeing something, I'm seeing this tree again, this tree against the sky, and I can like it and appreciate it and all those things that are happening, but it's not pressing against me. It doesn't have the impact and it doesn't have that immediacy that something pressing against the skin would have and would need to have. I guess for all kinds of good survival reasons, things that are pressing against your skin are probably more deserving of your attention than things that are just on the horizon. So maybe that's why we use feeling. We're trying to signify its importance and its relevance and its closeness to our centre of being, and our recognition of its possible impact on our survival and our well-being. You know, emotions and those feelings of being. You know, the feelings of knowing, feelings of meaning, feeling of what happens next. I mean, these are we recognise the significance of those, and perhaps articulate those recognitions to ourselves and to other people by saying these things are really close. These things are really close to who I am. These things are really close to what it is to be a person. They're pressing against me and almost shaping me by their impact. Maybe it's something to do with that. I'll just show you this tree because it is quite nice. There you go. Can you see that? Lovely.